I changed shirts because I figured the biggest three... Oh, I didn't even finish. Hey guys, it's ViewMasters Reactions, and we're back with the second half of Calamity Wrap-Up, Exandria Unlimited. I switched shirts because I figured it was warranted, being as we had a secret crew of the three amigos over here. We had Marisha, Abrea, and Lou secretly meeting and plotting. I mean, that's kind of cool, and I dig that they got their stories together. I only ask you guys, is that cool? I know I ask you guys all the time whether or not it's frowned upon, but I feel like that's up to them if they want to do it. I also feel like you might make the other players feel left out, like, what? Like, I'm not good enough to be part of your crew? Like, why wouldn't you have thought to include me? Why wasn't I part of it? And you can make excuses and stuff, but I feel like it could alienate people or make people feel bad. Granted, these are all friends. I'm sure no one's going to take it the wrong way. I'm just wondering, in a real deal scenario, would it normally be frowned upon to make a side kind of thing going on with some other character? I mean, it's a one-shot, it's Calamity. It isn't like a 3-year ongoing campaign. But I feel like we've gone over this in Campaign 2, where characters have discussed their characters and situations and stuff like that. So I feel like it's just up to your discretion. I only ask because I'm curious. Besides that, we find out that Laren almost was the mother of Elias. We found out a bunch of other things. Let's just jump in. We got an hour left. You guys want to see more of what I do? Full unedited episodes, all the shows on the channel, seasons ahead of what you're seeing, hundreds of exclusives you only see on Patreon. The links at the end, dozens of shows you'll never see on YouTube, Doctor Who, Person of Interest, Eureka, and Infinity Train, a million others. Check it out. If not, second half of Exandria Unlimited's Calamity Wrap-Up.
That blight casting, I felt like I was 4 seconds behind everything
felt like
everybody
you
was
were
doing
4
in terms
seconds
of all of that stuff. And when
too.
you said blight, I was like, wait, no, I'm not here.
Yes.
You're gone
Travis,
for all of that.
Yeah, Travis was gone for all
the
that.
luckiest guess. I was like,
Talking to
like
Sam
spell.
Kinison, was that? Was that when he was talking to Sam Kinison?
Oh, a bad tree.
Bad trees.
There is, I will say, in the pantheon of, you know, pulling the heart through and of blighting the tree, one of the very nice things that was very sweet about the show puts Sarah's decision to leave up there in that.
If you would have been there.
That would have been a total fight
crazy.
if you were there. You could have stopped a lot of shit from happening.
And you leaving was, I remember like you leaving and I was kind of like, we'll get him later. Like, it was like, truly like, it's fine.
That's
Like,
I
what's
understand
up?
what he's
Something
saying.
really bad's
I
gonna
didn't think it was like
happen.
gonna,
Come on, guys.
like we're not
And
gonna
then-
see him again
and then
till
they have
after
it being,
the
we're fighting against
incident.
it. Oh shit, he should be.
You should really
Why am I holding person?
Like so if
I
you
thought
had
the same
walked
thing.
in at
You
that
didn't
moment,
think about it because you're thinking,
you
how
know, with your
bad
pizza
could shit
box
get
and
that
the
quick?
fire going.
Full Donald Glover.
Well, like
Yes.
knowing what you knew at the moment and your suspicions of everyone, but especially Mrs. over here, who would you have gone? Who would you have stopped? What side would you have taken? Who would those hot hawks have gone straight into?
I mean, it would have depended on what he walked into, but Paisha and Laren were 1 and 2 because I just assumed
That's
that
you.
Xerxes.
Yay!
1 and 2 meaning the people you love and trust.
Know that
the
I would
most?
try and take down the
Oh,
fastest.
Amazing.
Yeah, and Xerxes would be like 3, but I would assume that he, wasn't trying to fucking befriend a betrayer god.
Yeah.
But I also
Travis
knew
is
that Nidus,
hedging
with
his
all
bets.
that bard shit that I haven't seen yet, because we hadn't really, we hadn't rolled. I didn't know what he, what was capable of coming out. There was a chance that it was just going to go bad. And what was so interesting was that I made the choice, just on an RP thing, to go after the kids and stretch the story that way. And then as soon as I left, I was like, oh, I'm going to let them fuck each other up and come in when they're tired.
That's very good, actually.
I mean,
Way better.
definitely better. Good
We have a
plan.
fan question. You guys.
Yes.
A fan question. Who the hell do they
Andrea
think
or
they are?
Andrea.
We have
It's,
no time
Abrea,
for the fans.
Or Abria.
Abria.
Technically both correct.
Was Laren's urgency to get the astral lay right done before the next
Abria.
apogee solstice only so that she could fix or focus
now
on her
we're
relationship
cooking
with
with
Loquacious
brandy.
before he was gone? Question mark. Or was there something she was hoping to do on other planes she was working towards that involved him/me as well.
Aw, babe.
So what were you up to?
Yeah.
Sweet.
What were you up to?
I think
I don't think it had to do with
the drive to
loquacious.
get it done in this one was suddenly realizing, like, her introduction was, hey, this is not only going to be your best shot, but it's like even better than you were hoping for to pull this off. So everyone has like over-indexed for like how focused she was in that moment. But like if you get the best news that like you have your best chance of success at pulling off something that you've worked for more than a decade on, like of course that's the thing you care about the most. She wanted it done and taken care of because yeah, in that sort of like type A personality, on the flowchart she was like, get the lay right done, fix your marriage, or at least repair that relationship so that it can be as good as it can be again, because she knew that she still had feelings for him.
But the lay right came.
But the lay right came first because it needed to get done.
Yeah.
It was a time
I
bound
get it.
thing.
I get it.
I think everything passed the plane.
You could
Like, there
wait,
was no,
or
like, I
could
wanna
you?
see
I mean,
home to the
sometimes you gotta
Feywild. That
sacrifice
was
your
just,
loved
like,
ones.
her, like,
like
a little
like
dream in the back of her
relationships.
mind
You don't have to
was, once this is
sacrifice
done, we
people.
can
Like
move
I gotta
this
kill
together
you. Sorry.
together.
There was
And
a lot
won't
of
that be
I gotta
lovely?
finish
a lot of our
Yeah.
characters like once we get this, we can focus on the
Yeah.
real stuff.
Exactly.
Just this one last thing.
It's one last thing.
Yeah.
I can rest after this.
Then-
Uh-huh.
There's nothing
That's
more
how it
fun.
is in real life too.
Uh-huh.
Knowing you're playing a game that's
John
going to like
good
stop at the
fucker.
calamity, there's nothing more tragic than like having telegraphing future plans of all the things you'll
Speaking
get
of
to.
plans, another question was how much of the Laren loquacious relationship was planned before the game?
Yeah,
Oh,
let's
okay.
let's talk
Yeah,
about
let's-
this
okay.
because
I got our text
Holy
thread.
shit.
God, it's
do?
I got our text thread up where
There's
Aria
some scrolling.
says
There's some scrolling.
it's a long thread.
Okay.
She says, Lorwyn is her first name.
Oh, I changed it. That's right.
Haven't decided on a surname. Thoughts on yours?
Are you just gonna read
Uh-huh.
it?
Uh-huh.
This
No,
is
I love
bad.
thoughts on yours is a funny double meaning there. Like,
Are
I
you
haven't
just
thought of
gonna
his
read this?
his surname? Could
What
I
if she's
have
like, I
yours?
hate Travis Willingham, that
I
piece
said,
of
my
shit.
current
Like,
name is Loquacious Hambrick Zucker.
Hambrick Zucker?
Hambrick Zucker.
You absolutely robbed us. I could have had
Hambrick
loquacious
Zucker.
Hambrick Zucker.
Like a ham brick?
Now we'll never have it.
Yeah.
What?
I love it,
Different
but
character. Hambrick Zucker?
I don't think you should ever tell people other
I hate him.
versions of things you
She is.
thought
Like, I
of.
don't want to be married
Because
to
you're
him. I've been
always
married
going to
to
get
that. Thank you.
somebody
Thank you.
who thinks
We
it's
made some
better.
better
In my
choices.
case,
No, I don't
I think that's better as well as some of them.
That's just 6 words.
It's like almost like you can't win.
Hambrick
Because
Zucker is a name with like a
people are either going to be like,
charisma of
ah, you
6
did good,
and a-
or
and a
disagree.
Constitution
You
of
just-
22.
You can't win.
Hambrick Zucker is definitely like creating his own cryptocurrency.
Think of a brick
Hambrick Zucker.
and how durable that would be.
My very next
I've
text
got
on
to
the thread
assume
is,
it's
maybe I should
Zuckerberg
simplify
or
my
something.
stupid ass last name to something much more fey, since that's where I'm from. How about Loquacious Sealy, implying that I'm from the Sealy court, like Elminor? Wasn't that something you did with Fern on EXU?
That's very kind. I was like, oh, he was.
Yeah, much better. But to answer the original question is how much of the relationship was planned, we figured out like a timeline.
Yeah.
How many years we were married, how many years we were not married. We figured out loosely why we had split.
Yes.
And
I put
this
so
one here
much
was like,
beard
hey, is it
lotion
okay
in.
if I was the reason?
You might see like
Look,
yellow.
we had already
It's like, see,
met
that's
in
why
our
my
little
face is
nasty
so
gal
shiny.
meeting, and I was like, I want to be the bad one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it. I did it. What'd I do?
And I was like, well, no, can't we both be at fault? Yeah, so we were.
My beard
Look, I'm
lotion,
just mad
or
because
it's like butter,
I came
is
away
like
from
yellow.
our text conversation
and
going,
it
what
rubbed,
a
and I
fun
comb it
bit
in, but
this
it,
will be.
it's
And then
like
you
really
proceeded
hot,
to
so I'm sweating
fucking
it.
knock me out with an emotion every 20 minutes. Whenever I covered my full face with my hands, it was because I was fully actually crying. Like, what is he doing? These are feelings.
That was a discovery.
Ugh.
Honestly, it was planned as a bit. Like we were just going to be sniping at each other. I think I talked to Brendan at least about how
Sometimes
hey, it would be
I have
really
my
great if
headphones
over the
hiked
course
back,
of-
and it
of
sounds so much
these
different
4
if I put them
episodes,
forward.
We could, he could discover things about himself that are. He could be more honest with himself about what he's become, and maybe he doesn't like what he's become, and maybe that would affect
piano
us in
music.
some way, and maybe
Beautiful.
by the end of it, we could reconcile or something.
Look-
But that's not up to you to decide, obviously.
No, and I mean, that was honestly the parts of the story that I probably had my hands off the most for were your guys' scenes. There was a whole scene in I think at the beginning of episode 3 or something like that, where it's just you guys in the Meridian Labyrinth while the fight is raging, and it's just you guys having a heart-to-heart. And the scene in episode 1 when we're doing all the intro vignettes, where you guys and you alone had a vignette where you met, and I remembered. Because we had talked about it, and you had said this vision of Loquacious that like his life changed in a bad way with the Elena Tuveris, with the covering up of that secret. Because before then, you had actually been an honest reporter,
Elena
and that was the beginning of you being like, okay, I'm going to acquiesce, and the Herald's Tome is going to kind of become propaganda, and it is going to be kind of power pushing, but it was also clearly bad for Loquacious, right? And in that first scene where you were talking to Laren, where you go
I just want to make sure everything's good.
You have the fun sniping. It's super fun. The jokes are flying. And then you're like, let's try to not hate each other for a month. And it was so real. And I was like, they're locked in. I was like, I don't know where we end up by the end of episode 4. The fucking speech, the speech in episode 4.
Can we talk about that ding dang?
The speech was one of the best. Loquacious' speech.
I don't know if I even want to know, but whether that quaver in your voice when you say, and to Laren, the Architect Arcane, most beautiful woman in the world, it makes me almost cry every time I've watched it. Of the 100 times I've watched it,
that's pretty beautiful.
It makes me almost want to cry. It's so profoundly beautiful, and whether that was honest emotion or performance, it's equally magical either way.
It was definitely honest. I am not a very good actor as opposed to what I said earlier, but yeah, I fell in love with her during the game.
I know exactly what he's talking about. I had to edit it
because we had a conversation
and
really
I've rewatched
long
it many
time
times
ago. Like, I don't know, 5-6 years. We were still in campaign 1. And we were talking about like how we role play, and I was kind of, I don't even remember how it came about in conversation, but was kind of asking like how you accessing things and you call back to things and like where you are influenced from your character's decisions. And you said like, I just always try to remember what came before. Like everything in these formative rungs of a ladder. So I just always try to think about like
Sam
what has
almost looks
already
confused
happened,
when
and
he's
that's
looking.
which sounds really like basic when you say it out there, but I think it is something that people, it's easy to forget, especially when you're in the moment. And that's always kind of like stuck with me. And I think that speech that you wrote was like a master class in just being 100% informed from everything that had already happened. And because it's easy to make shit up, and you could have made something up about
But he knew his shit.
the Avalier, where it's going and whatever, but everything was referenced from something that had previously happened. And
Chicken
it was just
scratch
incredible.
on a legal pad that only you really could read. Done in the shadows in like a matter of minutes while you were standing next to all of us being dumbasses on a break.
I don't
came back with that.
Yeah, like I don't use this. I don't say this lightly. The from that beautiful moment of Laren where you're like, oh my God, this is someone who's literally grappling in the moment with the fact that moments ago he made the decision to die. Made the decision to go down with the ship.
Yes.
And is speaking about the reason that he chose to do that. And then the moment after that, and remember the Market of Wonders. I just need to say that is, and I've been lucky enough to see a couple of them in my life. That is a perfect joke.
Yes.
It is a perfect joke, because to do something that funny that comes at a moment. Do you know what I'm saying? This is like a Campbell
I totally
quote. He literally
get
says
what he's
something about
saying.
comedy. Campbell says something about comedy where he says,
It's just
comedy
like-
completes the realization that drama begins.
It's two extreme
right?
emotions
where
that
it's
work.
like, where there's something where it's like, oh, I have not contradicted the depth of my sorrow. I have not contradicted the meaningfulness of my sadness, but I have introduced
Listen to the
something
music.
profoundly absurd and wonderfully silly. And I am not uncommitted in the moment of doing it. In the moment of doing it, this is exactly what I would do, and it's hysterical, and it's also makes it even more sad. It makes the sad thing more, just like, and remember the Market of Wonders. It's so fucking good.
I want to say one braggy thing.
Oh my God.
I would say it
Talking
was
to a bunch of friends.
top
and we were like,
3
they're also, like,
moments
our RPG
possibly
people,
of
and
the
they're like, what's
whole
the most,
thing.
Like, what's your
I mean,
favorite
the
decision
world
you've
did
ever
end
made in the
almost.
game? And my answer,
So
and it
everyone
remains
died.
to this day, was when we were in our character gen and you came in, you're like, I kind of want to be divorced. Who wants to do it? Best decision ever made was being like, me, pick me.
Yeah.
Because this was
It
the
was
most
fast and
fun.
loud.
Yeah, I did. I had
This
no
is the
chill about
most
that.
fun
I
divorce
was
I've
like, I
ever
will
had.
lunge for Laura. Like, don't stop. Let me have this. I don't want to fight you,
was
but
great.
I will.
It was great.
So thank you. For,
Great pair up.
Well,
Great
it really
combo.
was like so incredible to watch because I think you guys really hit on, what any type of a couple goes through where, and especially when you're like a third party watching a couple
music
bicker,
has
where
ceased.
you're like,
There it goes.
they're both right and they're both wrong. Uh-oh.
She got him
And this
there.
is where,
Oh,
like,
that was, he got her back. Yeah.
yeah. And you're just like, wow, you can like see just this, like, these sediment layers of damage and trauma
Yeah.
enacted on both sides. And that was incredible to watch.
Now, Marisha, I've always had a question for you. How does Paisha feel? How does Paisha feel about the deal
He's
her
reading off the
grandfather
thing.
struck with the
Goudrashari.
What-
I can tell you've been sitting on
Yeah,
that one for
this
like a long
you know, it's funny. I've been
yeah.
me and the boys. We've been talking, and we've been wondering what are Paisha's opinions about her grandfather and a family name.
Now it's her family name.
Wow, yeah, excellent
Thank
question, Lou.
The giant statue.
Oh man, I don't even know where to begin with this.
Start with the giant statue. It's
Ultimately,
beautiful.
like super high level, when I started thinking about Paisha and I went to Brennan and I was like, I think I want to make her like a Kennedy. Like I want her to be,
Grateful.
yeah, like just someone who is so deeply entrenched in the history of Avalier and the political structure of
And you
Avalier.
can't avoid it.
And I've talked a little bit about this as well, that like Laura was originally supposed to play. So she built like the very bare, structure of what this character
Somebody
was gonna
said
be,
that.
and she was
I
like,
think it was the dude told me.
"Politics." And I was like,
I'm pretty sure the dude told me that.
oh
Laura
man,
was supposed to
fucking,
play.
I gotta do politics? Okay. And especially because a lot of times in D&D or role playing, kind of like what you're talking about, like the orphan trope, it's easy to go for like the scrappy, work your way up from nothing, especially when you're going from low level to high level. But since we were starting at such a high level and entrenched in
Yeah, if you're rich
in everything
and
to
come
do
from money,
with
you could probably
Avalier, it was
do
just
more
kind of this
things
perfect
in a
opportunity
fantasy realm.
to build someone from the start who was super high society, incredible lineage in the city. And we talked so much. It was like why it was so wild when you were like, what about her parents in the game? And I was like,
It was one of those things.
I don't know.
Because you're never quite done world building, right?
Yeah.
Like there's lots of family relationships that we didn't explore. Like I don't necessarily know who Laren's parents are, right?
Yeah.
But
In the city, they died.
In the city, they died.
Incredible. But like with Paisha, it was just this thing where in the middle
Guys,
of
I
that
think I'm addicted to
episode,
Sunny Day.
they
gave me a
you
case
so
and I can't
beautifully
stop
bookended
drinking
it
it.
with Happy Replenishment, Grandfather.
Oh,
And it was
that was so
so beautiful. And the whole and really there was something so heartbreaking about Paisha. Ooh,
Yes.
I got a hit with emotion just saying that.
Ooh,
I got hit a little bit.
feeling.
Paige, it's none of you are all so fucking good at this. And it's not an accident that in the middle of the fight, Paisha looks at Laren and says, "You're my best friend." Because Paisha's alone. Yes. It's really fucking sad. And she's really, and it's someone who, and it just became clear in how you were playing Paisha.
Brennan,
that we got to the middle
You
of episode
steal
4
the
and I was
scenes.
like,
I love it.
this
I
person was
mean,
not.
he's just good. He's just great
treated
at talking, telling
by
stories.
this, and like yes, incredible wealth, all of this power, but looking at who Amir was. And by the way,
Amir the
everything I said in the
Bold.
beginning, Amir was an asshole from the jump. From the first scene, what does he say to do? Avalier goes from here to here. It's going to be beneath my eyes, right? I want the city to be underneath me. I'm looking down so the people down there can see my face, right? So that was immediately I was like, this is not a good guy, right?
Yeah.
And
Maybe he's afraid
when
of
we got to that point,
not heights.
in that final episode, I just realized how alone Paisha was, how much of herself she had given up to the service of this vision, and now that it was all slipping away from her, and especially as everyone was kind of like, Xerxes had gone to Kath Moira, Sarah had gone to get his kids out. You know, Loquacious and Laren were finding each other. Even Nidus like fucking had Alessander. You know, like there was this thing with Paisha where it was just like, who does she have?
The statue.
Standing in front of the
Statue, yeah.
fucking
Statue. Standing
alone.
And I just looked at it and I was like, the fact that we've never talked about your
It almost
character's
looks like
parents'
Lou
contribution,
is
it sort of
petting
just came to me in that moment. We had to
Brennan's neck,
communicate it while
like
the cameras were
caressing
rolling.
Brennan's
But I was
neck,
like,
the way his hand
your
is
parents
positioned.
are gone.
Because
Yeah.
Brennan keeps moving.
and gone from your
That looks
memory.
like Lou's hand is moving.
Because I was like, the most horrifying thing of someone, you know, it's the hammer and nail, right? If you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And the idea of your memory erasing everybody, you've done it to yourself. Or it's happened to
It's
your
happening.
grandfather.
Yeah. What's the likelihood?
What's the
Pretty
likelihood?
fucking high.
So that moment of just like your parents failed,
Yeah.
and in so failing,
Yeah, the
in some
music
way
is
or another, your
escalating.
grandfather was like, "You're gonna succeed where they failed."
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
Well, like, so I have a question. So, like, your grandfather was up to some shit.
But very hot.
Brennan, the Gal Drashari.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
what was it like unraveling that for the first time to all of us and the audience and everything
Did you
else?
consult with Matt?
Yeah, I mean,
Nah, I fucking winged it, dude. I said, this is where the Ashari come from. Of course I consulted with Matt.
This is where they come from.
I was so worried. I honestly, I mean, Matt
just
can attest
winged
to it.
it.
I was blowing up his phone nonstop. I was like, could this be true about some druids? You know, just truly trying to check in as much as possible because
Respect
and obviously,
of
like,
the world.
you know, like the guys
Could this
doing the
be
entirety
true?
of planning for C3, so I was trying to make it as short and concise as possible. But essentially, I was like, okay, for this, I think it started with the primordials. I was like, the primordials are sealed because I was trying to be like, I want there to be apocalyptic stakes here, but we know our betrayer gods are focused on Vasselheim, so they're not rocking up to Avalier's not their priority. So how do we make there be some stakes here in this moment? And I was like, oh, there's some primordial sealed under the mountain, and there's another prophecy about da 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 da. And so there was just a session where I was talking to Matt, and I was like,
what the
something
frick is
with
that?
these old druids that used to be there in the mountain. And Matt was like, and I think Matt fully pitched all of the stuff surrounding like. Matt, first of all, the name Gaudrashari is a Matt Mercer original.
Cool.
when you said it, I was like, Gaudrashari?
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
He pulled it off the
Root
dome
word.
so fast. It was fucked up. I was like, what about the druids? And he's like, the Gaudrashari. And I went, fuck, that was just right there. We watched it
I remember
happen.
when I
Mercer.
first
There
heard
it
it, I was
is.
like,
Matt
I
Mercer,
know
Matt
that
Mercer.
name, but it was
Fuck.
Ashari, like Keyleth,
And then
right?
the
Keyleth,
you know, I had been talking about like, it was a perfect marriage. I feel
And
like
Keyleth was a druid, obviously.
because you know like. I was coming in with these like, story
Obviously.
beat things, right? Because for me, of like especially doing short run
Guys, we got
seasons,
the
it's like
live
okay,
stream in
here's the
45
beats we have
minutes.
to hit, and I was
We'll
like,
finish this,
and then
and
going
I'm
to the
already pretty
fucking
drunk.
you know the creator of Exandria, this like master world builder, and being like. It would be great if Vespin had released the betrayer gods from their prison, but there was some other stumbling block that we can focus on in this story. If there's something from these druids that they
Definitely
put in
gonna
the
have a
city
coffee after this
that
to wake me
the
up.
wizards kind of don't give a shit about anymore, right? So you can even hear like in how I'm saying it of like here's a fucking fuzzy little thing I need for a story thing to happen. And Matt goes like, okay, and just immediately on the call spins this whole thing about the Gaudrashari and the fact that the primordials, there's an analogy to the elemental gates of the Ashari and the idea, the elemental rifts, like the idea of
As Brennan's explaining
there
it, the
are all-
music
there's
sounds so
connection
whimsical.
to elementalism through the
I feel like
primordials and other stuff like
we're
that.
watching
And then the Tree of Names being this
science
thing that
fiction
was
reading.
itself crafting a druidic protection over the world was
Kind of
also
are.
a Matt Mercer original.
I mean, you guys,
So sick.
obviously, we know that both of you are super talented, but the way that you guys did this together is just, it's astounding.
I know.
I'm
It's
doing
astounding.
I'm doing this to camera, but also Matt's literally right there.
Is Matt just hanging?
No, it was so cool to. It was also so cool for me as a player because, you know, I've only ever really played in one shots or 3-year-long epic campaigns.
Yeah.
So it was cool to come into a short-ish, you know, I
It was
guess
a,
short medium
what, 4
story,
weeks?
and just to see how you approached it and how you approached gently pushing and prodding us into character creation that would serve a shorter form story and keeping us sort of
I'm
always
surprised
on
that
task
Sam
with,
never
like,
did anything
okay,
like this.
This is
I'm
your,
surprised
this
he
is,
just
you
did
don't have a
one-shots
short-term, a
and-
medium-term,
I
and
mean,
a long-term goal.
I guess
you
it kept
really
him
just
pretty
have
busy.
this one. This is the one that we get. We got to keep you focused on it, and it was just so cool to watch you balance the needs of this short-form story with the demands of Matt's gigantically huge world, and
Yeah.
it was that
He
in and of
hesitated
itself
that world.
is a feat,
He
and you
had-
should be
Yeah.
congratulated for it.
Gigantically.
You suck, Brennan.
You suck, Brennan.
Oh, I should have can't tell if it helps if it's the clap.
It was what an incredible joy, and I feel like that's the you know, so much of the fun of stepping in here for this story was that thing of like almost like an operator, a switchboard, right? Because you have all this beautiful material, and you're like, okay, Vespin chlorid, like all of the. I was going back over it, like it's like why was Asmodeus the betrayer god? And you're like, in the lore of
Asmodeus.
Exandria, pre-established by Matt,
Asmodeus.
the rumor is that Vespin Chloris is at the right hand of Asmodeus. And you read that and you go, well, if this motherfucker released every betrayer god, why is he at the right hand of just this one guy? And just all of a sudden, just the ideas start coming, and it's very like, okay, and you plug that in there, and you go, okay, so Vespin does that, but it's the age of Arcanum also was just shitty wizards everywhere. So I don't want it to be like these guys were fucking just like, we never did anything wrong, and just Vespin Chloris ruined fucking everything for all of us. It's like, no, you're all fucking culpable, baby. Like Vespin is symptomatic of the larger age, right? Like, and you all share some blame in this, right? And then establishing, but like, why does Vespin Chloris have the unique sort of like station that he does in the conscience of Exandria? And it's like, well, number one, Avalier was so destroyed that like, what fucking stories came out of it, right? As opposed to Vasselheim, which we know does
God,
get
he is,
successfully
I am
defended
like
by the
getting
crime
sucked
deities.
in by Brennan
And
because he's
Vespin
explaining
Chloris's,
so
like,
much.
crimes
He
were
literally
known
quiets
in the city.
me.
So it's like his story has a way better chance
Him and
of
Matt Mercer
surviving
quiet me.
secretly.
If you notice my
in addition
reactions,
to the deal he made with the fucking
I'm just
Lord of the Hells,
intrigued by
never be
all their
forgotten.
lore.
Yeah, can we also just like, I'm gonna barf compliments on
Nothing against
Luis for a
anybody
second.
else.
Yeah.
It's
Because,
just
like,
Brennan and Matt.
My first time playing with
just
you, it's at our table.
ramble with
Surely,
amazing
surely
lore.
Brennan will pick
And I love it. I'll
on
just sit
someone
there.
else to start the story. But instead,
I thought.
he threw you into the labyrinthian trench. Like it was churning waters and madness. And I was like, well, that's one way to have someone never come back and play this again. But you just smashed it. Like,
Yeah.
how
That's
did it
one
feel
way to get
to
someone to
start
never
with
play with us
the
again.
Lord of the Hells kicking off the whole thing? What like how'd that go?
I don't even know how.
You
Okay.
could have fucked up so
This
bad.
will be interesting. I dig this one. How did the Lord of Hells
It
become?
was the
That's
beginning of a
That's
four-part
insane.
thing. You could have fucked up the whole thing.
Could have.
But
I didn't.
Yeah, that's like the old movie line where you're like, well, that's one way to go. Like, we're fucked from the start.
You rose to the challenge immensely. It was amazing.
I had no. So I think I had asked Lou. I think before we started, I think I just went to Lou and I was like, so I mean, I don't. What's gonna? I mean, we're about to start, right? Yeah. And then you had said, oh, Brendan usually, starts off with like vignettes, like a spotlight on each character, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, she's not gonna start with me. I had no idea until partway through, and I think you see my face kind of go, do something, and I was like, oh, okay, we're here. But I had asked, I think I had said this in the Twitter thing too, that I had, one of the things that I had asked Brennan for was I wanted to have an encounter with a betrayer god because I didn't know where in the Calamity this was gonna
What
take
a
place.
weird request.
I know, but I wanted to see what would
Honestly, I
redemption,
totally would do something like that.
to the extreme.
I would
with
love if that
confronting
was an
a
option.
betrayer god, and I wanted, but I
100%,
thought it was going to
I want
happen.
to see a
I didn't know it was
betrayer
gonna
god.
happen like this
I would be
at
down.
all, like in a more intimate way. I just thought
Might
I would
die,
see a
probably
betrayer
die.
god in the distance, eventually approaching, and then I would have to go and confront them, and then that would be how my character probably dies. And then it was here's
Exactly,
this dream
see?
and this really intimate.
That would probably be how he
like,
dies.
didn't
I would
know was
assume the
gonna
same thing, but I still
care
want to go down that
for
road.
them. I didn't
As
know
a-
what
as a
betrayer god
character.
we were going to meet, and I didn't know I was going to care for them the way that unfolded. And one of the things, just talk a little bit more about Xerxes for a moment. There's one sort of hidden thing that I had incorporated. into
pretty
him,
fair
the,
with
the
who
way
he
he sees the
talks.
world, and that he establishes attachments fast, which I was surprised that
I feel like
wasn't a red
everyone's
flag to
talked
people. Because
pretty
he falls
equally.
in love with Evandrin immediately, and then he meets this kid, and he's like, "You're my son," immediately. So he creates intense attachments fast, and then here we are having a meeting with the betrayer god in this really intimate way, and I was like, "Okay, attachment created."
That's really good.
But also, we couldn't see it. Like, we didn't see any of
Yeah.
that happening. I mean, we were at the table watching it, and when you were like, I'm going to redeem him, we were like, that's definitely not the thing you do.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad you're doing it.
Yeah,
Shout
yeah,
out to
yeah.
the reaction corners just being like, what?
We were losing
When
our
you came
shit.
out of the thing and we're just kind of like we were leaving and it was just like, huh, I guess we gotta go. We gotta all meet up to go fight Lucretia. There was like the like PC versus
That's right, you said
actual me moment of being like, hey dog, you gonna tell me? You gonna tell me that crazy thing just is happening there? And then time just kept going on and it was like, I guess he's not. He's not gonna tell me that it was cuddling a betrayer god. Well, I
Cuddling a
was
betrayer
just
god.
standing outside the door being like, shit, man, we gotta go. Like,
And we'll still say the instinct behind it predominantly was paternal. But I can see how it can become all kind. I mean, like Elias and Evandrin. Like Elias grown up looks like Evandrin, and so it was super fucking confusing to be like, you're so tender and caring and also receptive of any intimacy that comes from me, whether it's paternal or so much confused romantic.
It was so cool,
crazy.
but it was also
This is so
it was. I mean, it was just wild to watch because
I
it's
just got
it's
to
such
watch
a-
because
it's
we got
so,
the live stream.
Those
30.
choices are unexpected, unusual. At one point, I feel like
23
in the
minutes,
first
right? 23
game,
minutes, okay.
at one point I was like, wait, maybe Luis just didn't hear him. Maybe he didn't hear Brennan that this is a
This is the Lord of Hell.
Yeah, it's a red guy with big.
I
big horns.
totally remember this
horns.
too.
He's
Like,
like,
I was
I
on board
maybe
though.
started
Let him
hearing
do
or
it.
something.
Let's
Maybe he
see the
missed it.
fireworks. Maybe he missed it.
I just need to say, like, for real, in terms of everyone's character was so truthful to the thing they had said at the outset. In terms of plot, blighting that fucking tree and pulling that devil through the fucking portal.
Oh my God.
Hey, as all the bad guys, thank you. Because truly, from a storytelling perspective, I needed it. I was like,
He needed a moment. I said this during the reaction how I feel like no matter what we do, Brennan needs to have the calamity happen.
I
So
had
he
trouble
just
with that as a person.
they just
of
made
being
it
like,
easier.
Luis, what the fuck are you doing?
Pulling in Lords of Hell and blighting
Fucking
sacred
mental
trees.
loopholes you need to jump through to get on fucking Team Save the World. Like, what is this shit?
I will say my favorite part was watching, like, because that second, when you were being an Oracle meeting with the Lord of Hell.
The Ashley shirt is
watching
still
Brennan
getting me.
start
That is a great
super
shirt. If it
neutrally,
could get me
and the
this many
moment
times
you, like,
for 2
fed
hours.
him compassion,
Great
there's
shirt.
nothing more fun than watching a DM dial in, like, got it.
Yeah.
And then, like, you watch the entire encounter change to feed you the thing that Xerxes was already like. There's something so beautiful about the way you, like, stated everything, which was never like.
I gotta
asking
get
anything
the
of him
Ashley shirt,
or
and there was a Mighty Nine on
inciting or
Talks
doubting
Machina
it. You were feeding
for
him what he
episode
wanted him to
26.
tell you.
Yeah.
And all he had to do was bounce it back at you. And it was just the most
Yeah,
heartbreaking
totally.
thing I've ever seen, because I was like, oh, I understand exactly why a person like Xerxes in this moment would do that and get that back, and it's just this horrifying feedback loop.
And
100%.
why it would never occur to him to try to challenge that by doing mechanically an insight check, or didn't do a zone of truth there. Not that it would have worked on the Lord of Hells, but he wouldn't. He didn't. You know, he tried to do a bunch of
Zone
things.
of truth on the Lord of
Curse, a bunch of stuff that I knew would fail, but he was going to try to do.
Yeah.
Well,
and
I love that commitment.
But I think it's also like, I mean, the Lord of the Hells. It's like evil. It's like the most evil, the evilest, right? And what is more evil in terms of being a liar, like the god of lies? Like trickery is one of his domains. Is like, no, I don't flim flam a person with a steel resolve. I do what real evil is, which is I find somebody who already wants to believe.
Yeah.
You know, you find somebody who already wants it.
That's
and you
how
go,
all the movies are.
Is there something that you'd really like
Whenever
to be
you
true?
see
Well, I'm not
devil
gonna-
movies and
How
stuff
much
where
does
they
the devil even lie in those couple scenes? He mostly, you say stuff. You're like, the prime deities, they did this to you.
Yeah.
And Homeboy's like, yeah, sure, man.
Yep.
You know,
like bedazzled.
It was
you know, like it's
She
so
went after him
much-
because he was a
It's so much
lonely
him just like letting you walk to where he
weirdo.
wants
Brendan
you to
Fraser.
walk.
I
There was
rewatched
such a
that recently.
chilling take
He is
to see-
annoying
to
as
hear
shit in
you
that
do
movie.
the devil going like.
I mean, once he starts jumping into the other bodies, he's
Just
great.
nonchalant,
But as a real
like
person,
throws up my back,
really annoying.
doesn't want to do this, doesn't want to be here, is
I'm
over
sorry.
it, not conniving, not arch.
Sorry about my bad breath.
Oh,
It was the most, you did a lot of terrifying things this entire campaign, but that was the most terrifying. And I'd be lying if I didn't say, there was a part of me that was like, I just saw something that Brennan is capable of.
yes,
That's a red flag.
yes.
About the person?
Respect earned.
I'm glad that Brennan is like
Level,
a
elevated.
good, an incredibly good and moral person to his core,
Yes.
because you're very intelligent, and I'm like, oh, he can tap into like this weird manipulation aspect.
But that's-
is horrifying.
But that's
horrifying.
Of course, I
Lord
mean,
of Lies.
well, that's the thing is that type of, like, what's so scary about manipulators is that they actually have, there's a whole thing in there's a whole article talked about the neurology of it, but they literally said, like, for that kind of manipulative behavior, it's like high cognitive empathy,
Yeah.
low emotional not the right word, but in other words, you don't feel it when you hurt
But
people,
you give it
but
more.
you know what will hurt people.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like those type of people have profound understanding. Like the idea of like, no, I really get you. And I know what I need to say to.
I love the
had
setup,
There was
too.
so much stuff we didn't have
Brendan
time to get
right
to
in the
with
middle, 'cause he's doing
even
the
in
majority
all
of the
hours that
talking, and
long
it's
finale.
most of the
But I had
entrancing talking.
I spent a lot of time thinking about the Lord of the Hells and what he thought about stuff. And there was a thing of like, if it ever had been a longer conversation after his turning on you, of you being like, what was a lie and what was the truth. Very little that he said was a lie. There were some lies in there, very little was said. But when he showed up to you wounded, that's the manipulation of him showing up injured because, and I remember the line I had for him was going to be, yeah, I appeared to you injured because you guys love it when people are hurting. And he's like,
You need somebody to save.
Yeah.
you know, like you love it when people hurt.
Savior
And if I had shown up to you in my full
I mean,
power, you would have hated
talking
me
about
because you
war
hate
and
when things stand
violence, and I mean, especially
And,
Xerxes.
and just really having that
raging
thing of him
paladin.
being like, no, you guys are the ones who are fucked up, and he's wrong and evil, but it was like finding what he hates about mortals was very fun, and if I scared anyone, good.
Dude,
The fact
It
that you
was
did that,
my
like you
intent.
dropped affectations, like your voices and mannerisms are great for NPCs. The fact that you played the Lord of the Hells and dropped all of that, I was like, that's just Brendan talking.
I know, it fucks with your head.
Yeah.
I keep thinking I'm hearing something.
very
I think
good.
my house is haunted again.
We've been talking
I haven't seen
for
Ghosts in a while,
little
but I think
bit,
they're
and
back.
as everyone can see, our mic packs are starting to.
you guys ever
all
see
the
anything, let
batteries
me
are
know.
starting to eat it.
I
But
died.
Mine died.
a
Ghost.
few more questions before we
Even
wrap
though I
it
don't
up.
think
But I
it's
do
possible.
desperately want to know, Brennan, did you have any contingency plans should the end of the world
yeah.
not come about as expected?
Was there any way? I don't think
many
so.
contingency plans.
I feel like
There
he
was
had
a
contingency
whole
plans, but I
plot
feel like no matter
about
what.
the Septarian coming after you guys.
Oh my God.
The wizards. The,
In a world, yeah, I had to. Well, we only had 4
'Cause there
episodes,
is
so
always a
ton
way
of
to-
planning.
yeah.
I had all like.
But no
people
matter
talk about,
what, we had
in terms
to
of
lose,
rails,
I'm
there were a
assuming.
bunch of
Is
railroads
there
you guys
any way
could
we
have
could
gone
have
on.
won?
Those rails just we won't ever get to. But in a world where you guys see shit starting to go wrong, and not even all of you, but just one of you goes to the Septarian, or someone goes and says, "Hey, we should alert other thing." Or especially in a case where you all go to the Septarian and say something wrong is happening here and try to get the city on your side, they were going to declare you guys fugitives. And there was going to be a whole thing of them coming after you.
I thought about it for a second because there was someone that
Honestly-
the senior site warden reports to, and I was like, nah, if I don't trust these people, I certainly don't trust that list of.
I honestly thought
somebody to
before
lie,
the shit hit
somebody
the
to
fan and
be,
everything went nuts, I thought we were gonna go on the run and be
In terms
like,
of the
not trusted by
various
anybody.
contingencies, yeah, there were a ton. But in terms of you guys averting
Nah.
the calamity, those contingencies are kind of the most boring one. Like in the ones where you don't blight the tree, you don't pull the Lord of the Hells in, then it's like, yeah, Vespin rolls up and the taxmen go evil, and then it's a fight at the tree. Or, you know, if you don't pull the Lord of the Hells through, then it's like only Vespin can come through, but he pulls in some devils and they like kill Xerxes, and you know, like it's like most of the contingencies
still would have
where
had to happen.
you guys are less responsible for the calamity is brute force. Something comes in.
So we
use
just are more
the
responsible
artifacts from
because
Ormond's
of our
office.
actions.
They use the blood they got from you. Some other thing happens. You guys managed to, like, you know, somehow jury rig the helm and stop the city, but then the sun rises and you turn, and you know, so it's like all this. There's like all this stuff, right? That like, weirdly, the contingencies for that were like some of the most simple ones. Other contingencies. There were a bunch of
These are like
contingencies also for
what
that
if
final
comic books.
combat, right? That was very interesting. Like,
Well, there's a show now, too.
for example, there were a bunch of like you guys holding the taxmen in that first round at the door changed a lot of. That was like huge. That last battle was everyone was so fucking good. The inspiration going to Sarah. We gotta talk about that. Wait a minute. Yeah. The last thing I'll say is I actually had the contingency I had for Laren. There was a very there was that moment at the end with Vespin and the insane nat 20 that got him down. I actually had contingencies for what happened if Laren died. I was totally prepared for Laren to go down in that last final fight, which was essentially that someone was going to have to make a, you know, unreal, impossible DC Arcana check with disadvantage
To figure out her work.
to try to complete the last couple. And in fact, it probably would have been loquacious, which would have been very cinematic in its own.
Good. I should have died. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You
you
should have
should've
died,
My
you
bad.
son of a bitch. How selfish.
Give me my moment.
Yeah, no, 100%.
He had his moment.
Yeah.
Honestly, by her not dying,
But wait, that final was. Oh, wait, hold on.
Loquacious had a
that
better moment.
final roll. That final roll.
30. The 30.
the surrogate
It
roll.
wouldn't have been done without the inspiration, without the buff. Of course. I mean,
That's right. We were all just throwing everything we had to just like get Sarah out.
Brendan basically said it had to be like a 30
I mean,
or higher, right?
it was just so good. At least, just from my chair, because he had done all the things he needed to do for his kids. He had atoned in
It's
that
gonna get
way.
emotional.
Let all that stuff go, focused on the thing, killed the thing, but it wasn't done. Like, could he get out and leave? And it only would have happened. It only could have happened because of the Ring of Brass.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it by himself.
Yeah.
And so that was just so fucking perfect.
Yeah.
Like,
One little spark of
one
hope
of those
at the
things
end.
where it takes the whole table.
And it
It
wasn't
mattered that
guaranteed
we were friends.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not. that wasn't in the.
Without that
Oh.
8,
Yep.
For sure.
yeah, without that 8, there's no world where that.
Nope.
Yeah.
possible.
he goes down with everybody else.
And I mean, realistically, too, we still don't really have any idea, like, did Sarah make it back to his kids?
Yeah, I was just going to say, are we going to know?
Guessar, that's all he knows.
Guessar, yes, someone
mean,
Guessar.
He is like the world's greatest detective, but
Sure.
Got clear, you sent the library to his daughter, who's at the University of Arcane Wizard. Like,
That's right. Yeah.
When you texted me, and you were like, "What did you just do to my daughter?"
Yeah, because for a moment there you were like, and I sent it to, because I hadn't picked up on what you had done. I didn't know that the little miniature was the culmination of knowledge of Cavalier.
Yeah.
You
He thought
sent it to her, and I was like, this bitch
He,
is fucking
Johnny
with my
Mnemonic.
daughter.
It's like a Johnny
no
Mnemonic
limit to her
thing.
evil.
He put so much
Wait,
in her
it's
head.
way,
her
way
head's
better
gonna
than
explode.
that.
But I mean, to be fair, like, I don't know, like, because and part of my inspiration for Paisha was like, what if we hadn't lost the Library of Alexandria? What if we had a record of all of that and all of this knowledge just hadn't been lost?
Now we do.
And I kind of like, I've asked Matt since then as well. I'm like, where's my orb?
is it?
Is the orb still around?
Yeah.
Where is it?
there is something that me and Abria are the only, at the time of this filming, the only people in the world who have the experience of, which is that camera stops rolling and suddenly Canon leaves you.
Yeah.
And I immediately wanted to run and find Matt and be like, is the orb okay? I don't have any say anymore. It goes back to you now.
I mean,
is it fine? The
that's how
little
we're probably
library,
going to hear
where
from
is it at?
Surrit again. Maybe we
You'll
hear
get
from
the
Surrit
moment,
in the
Brennan.
form
At
of his
some point,
lineage.
It will pop, like something will pop up in C3, and you'll just be there and be like, "It happened and it mattered." It found the light.
I mean, this is a month and a half old. Not even a month and a
I
week.
saw this fan
month and a half.
theory that is 100% just a fan
I'm assuming
theory,
it's
but
still
I
up in the
kind
air
of
with
like
Surrit
it.
and the orb.
That
I saw it too.
did you see this one?
I don't know what
That
you're talking
like, and once again, all fan, not canon, but that the library going to the daughter of a master detective and then getting all of this library information.
Sherlock Holmes kind of.
was like the origin of the Cobalt. And like this was like this. Yes, that Harper's knowledge. And I know.
An eye on other like, powerful.
I can see it. We're in the Cobalt Soul right now.
If that ends up
Bo,
being
her
true,
character, Bo, Cobalt
we
Soul.
came up with that idea.
And that's 3 hours
Fans did
earlier.
not do it.
So I'm assuming
No, I love
Marisha
that.
must
There's-
be interested in the Cobalt
If ever
Soul.
there was a world where like I would jump, like there was someone else running something later in the Calamity,
music is from a
like
movie.
coming back and
I'm almost
playing
positive.
either like Kier or Maya as an adult would be so fucking
Someone write that
sick.
down.
Yes.
Adult Kier in my mind is jacked. He's fucking huge, dude. Fucking huge, man.
Here, is that you? Yeah, I found protein shakes.
Talent 2 now.
Like a
Talent
wispy
fucking
mustache.
6.
a lot of acne.
There was something we were talking about in terms of like the sort of how everyone here bookended everything. Everything got bookended so well. The 31 investigation for Vespin, the 31 investigation to get back to your family.
That's great.
And so fucking good. And I also too, I wanted to talk about two things really quick with like
Solid rolls.
that were like just
Changed
important to
the
me
whole
to
game.
do as a DM and also kind of as a storyteller for like the kinds of stories we tell. In a short story, it's always there are certain things that come through that feel like because the story said this, the story is saying this is always true, right? And the story is like making a claim about how the world works. And so it was something in terms of the book ending of it all. It was really significant to me that Laren used her lay right to save Exandria.
Yeah.
And that Xerxes used his cleansing redemption power to get Vespin back for a moment.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want the story to say science is bad and innovation is bad.
Yeah, and compassion
and
is
compassion is bad.
bad.
It was
Yeah.
like I wanted the story to say something more like nuanced of like
Yeah.
it was bad or like bad. It didn't work in this instance for these reasons. It didn't work in this instance for
I
these
get what he's
reasons.
saying. Makes sense.
Rather than making this big thing. And the fact that both of you guys, after blighting the tree or after pulling the Lord of the Hells through, got to say, here is a chance to show what I mean by this was like very cool and just like, I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh,
great.
so good. So much
we wrap it up?
poetry.
Speaking of poetry, should we end on the burning question that was
what is it?
submitted?
What's the burning
why
question?
people have been watching.
Literally.
Yeah, the entire time.
When are we doing this
We've
again?
texted about ourselves.
Yeah. Fan favorite, standout NPC, stole the show. Brennan,
Oh,
is Bolo
Bolo.
okay? What happened to Bolo from Aor?
I don't like her. I don't like her.
You know,
Wool.
sometimes a PC will gift you with an NPC, and sometimes a PC will gift another PC with an NPC. Sometimes Bria will say, "Did you have a +1?" And Sam will go, "That absolutely
Sure.
makes sense." Sure. And then what'll happen is
I
that,
said that'd be no problem.
and then what'll happen is that PC will, name that NPC. And sometimes they'll just reach down into the top hat and see if a rabbit comes out, and a rabbit doesn't come out. What comes out is Bolo. Name Bolo. And then what you get to do is conscript Matt Mercer into doing Slavic accents for any Aorians.
Yes! Canon accepted.
My name is.
I don't know why in that moment, but I had to, we were improvising it, and there you go.
My God,
That's
he took
Bolo.
a
Bolo's
very
dead.
long way. Bolo's dead. I was gonna say Bolo's dead. Bolo's gotta be dead.
But not the
How
way
is
you
Bolo
think.
not
Or
dead?
not the way you think. She dies 12 hours later because she gets hit by a wagon. No.
barely made it out of
She
there.
Is Bolo-
teleports.
Which one is
She
Which
tele-
one is it? No. Or Bolo is an incredibly dangerous Aorian spy.
Hey,
who
anything's possible,
goes
but I assume
into
she
Avalier
died.
during the
let's
chaos
go
and
with
finds
this.
a necessary piece of arcanotech for Aor's later work with all of the shady things that we know that they were working on.
Absolutely.
Right?
Threshold crest.
Threshold crest, Godhammer, anything, right? Or there's also a world where maybe Bolo was a polymorph dragon and she just flew away.
My God. All right, so
Who's this bitch?
who was this?
She was
bitch?
Bolo. She wants to be a reporter. Eventually.
This your house is the
This-
most important
This
thing.
your house. This
Not
your
a question, not a statement.
I can't imagine
Just words.
She can't be a polymorph dragon. She couldn't be.
Why not?
She doesn't know how to ask. She doesn't know how to get a beer from a Hadmadar.
Not all
How
dragons.
many
know-
beers are dragons out here grabbing?
I don't
What?
know. Hundreds?
Be a dragon
What?
rolling up to the bar. Excuse me, might I have?
She
a pint
can't.
of beer?"
That's the
No,
reasoning.
everything- If you
His
actually think about
reasoning
it, the
for her not
dragon
being a
theory
dragon
kind of
is
makes
she.
a lot of sense.
Stop it.
There's kind of a part of it that makes a lot of sense if you start to think about it. You know what I'm saying? Because she doesn't know how to get drinks. She wants to be a reporter eventually. Those are all the things we know about Bolo.
Reno Screwball.
That's why I said technically she could be anything, and she was around the higher level people.
I think I was so stunned by Bola's inherent beauty and strange personality that I didn't use my one feat that would have seen any illusions present.
Was a dragon.
Sam, you were fucking a dragon.
You were fucking a
Hey,
dragon.
man,
Sam.
let me be clear. I will happily allow that. You just put that on the
These
wall.
draconic sorcerers have to come from somewhere. You know what I mean? At the end of the day,
That's how the dragonborn race was born.
yeah, there you
Yes,
go.
there you go. I mean, it had to come from somewhere.
our progenitor, Bolo.
Bolo was the start of the
Jesus.
draconic people. Half dragons.
well,
Well, on that note,
Dragon fucking. Thanks, folks.
yeah. Long live Bolo.
No.
Long may she reign. Thank you guys so much for doing this.
I
This
mean,
was
what a way to
truly
end it,
the
but hey,
most
at least it's on a
special.
happy,
I also
fun
want to
note.
give a quick shout out to our production crew.
Who is
Producer
it?
Kyle, who
Did we get to see him? Kyle Shire.
There were so many amazing little points of genius that I hope people have pointed out on, from everything from the graphics.
The overlay.
sound
the
effects they
overlay.
add in?
Yeah, I saw a
What
few
a
people notice it.
wild detail.
Yeah, over time the overlay was slowly degrading and cracking, and little Easter eggs, all of the incredible art that we had done just across the board. Wanted to shout out from everyone from top to bottom. It really felt like just such, everyone was on their A game. you know, and not just the people who are sitting here in front of the camera, but all the people behind the camera as well. So it was absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Quality.
And yeah, we could say this is the end, but is it?
Yeah, we died.
It doesn't really feel
It's not. It's not.
we're done.
It's not. I don't think it's the end because again, it's hope returns, right?
Yeah.
Like
You
Did
saying
Patience
we can
parents
come
know the
back?
matron of ravens?
Oh,
I have so
Marcella.
many other questions.
Calamity
There's so
here
much more to
True.
explore.
Yeah.
Calamity is not here forever.
No.
Wait, so we all lived through it? We're fine?
Yes.
No, okay, so 5 of you are fucking dead, and that's what the dice said. Okay?
Bola's alive.
But Bolo's alive,
Bolo is 100%
Surrit's alive, Surrit can play
unless
kids.
She was dead the whole time. She's undead.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're fucking a dead person.
necromancers.
Fucking
Always so
necromancer.
So
dramatic.
dramatic.
Oh, she said something different.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you to everyone watching at home. We love you. And is it Thursday? Yay!
I want to see how they end it. All right, guys, so that is the end of part 2. We got Exandria Unlimited, the Calamity wrap-up. Finally got around to it. The dude has been asking me to do this for weeks, probably months. Well, it's only been out for a week. It's only been out for a month and a week or two. But I remember the day it dropped, the dude was like, yo, go check this out. And honestly, Calamity, like I said before, was one of my favorite things involved in Dungeons and Dragons I've done. Obviously, I love Campaign 2, but as far as things not Campaign 2, Calamity's probably the next best thing. I haven't yet finished Escape from the Bloodkeep, which we're going to jump into in about 20 minutes. I just looked at the clock. It is 8:20 right now. So I have about 5 more minutes to talk to you guys, and then I'm jumping into the live stream. You guys aren't going to see this till tomorrow, so that isn't going to matter, but I already explained this in episode 27. Either way, it was great to see all these people again. Brennan ran the show basically in part 2. I think part 2 had a lot more lore and knowledge spewing. That's why I was quieter. It isn't anything personal. It's just when Brandon talks, it is just like a well of knowledge. And I'm like, I'm all ears because I want to know all I can. When the other people talk, they're just answering questions about their characters, which is also interesting and intriguing, but they're dead. So it's like, oh, I'm very interested in what happened here and how did you get to this point and where did you come up with these ideas? That's all very interesting and I'm totally down. But when Brennan talks, I'm thinking this is stuff that is going to be future lore or things that are coming up, even though they're in the past from where we are in Campaign 2. We didn't know how Calamity happened and how this all unraveled and everything like that. So that's why it interests me more. If you notice, I don't even notice it till I'm like realizing I haven't spoke for like 5 minutes. But Matt Mercer, when he speaks and is going into lore, if we're just in like a mission or some random thing, it's like, all right, whatever. It's just like a regular thing. But when Matt is like, all right, so there's this thing and this and that and blah, 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 and you know something's coming or he's explaining a new area or something like that, I'm all ears. Same with Brennan. And in the first part, I feel like he didn't do nearly as much talking. I feel like Marisha did the introduction. She acted as the host. She kind of introduced everybody. They all equally spoke in the first half, and I feel like Brennan spoke the least. And then in the second half, Brennan just was like all about it. I'm pretty sure he spoke for probably 50%, and I'm all good with it. We found out a lot about the characters. We found out a lot about the different ways this could have unraveled had we not had the Lord of Hells, had we not had the blighted tree. There would have been other things, Vespin Chloris coming in hot. But we did speak of my 2 big things that I took away from this that are the biggest moments to me, besides the fact that Calamity happened and the world ended and everyone died. Surrit rolling the 31s, and they spoke of it with Vespin and his children getting back to them at least, or having the opportunity to get back to them. It was huge, mind-blowingly huge that it happened as the last roll of the game and saved his life literally. The other one was Loquacious' speech. Amazing. I feel everything they were saying, and even the way that Brennan explained it, where he was like, did you add that quiver to your voice? I think he said a quaver. But the way the subtitle said was a quaver. But it's like a quiver in his voice, and I know exactly what he's talking about. His voice kind of cracked, he quivered. It was all unintentional, but the speech was amazing, and then he ended it all with a cherry on top, the joke. And we're jumping in to the live stream. Hopefully we'll have another one of these soon. If we do, I hope it's after football season, because that's going to get hectic. When football season starts in a week or two, I mean, preseason starts soon, but I'm going to do live streams. We're going to have to figure it out, but I can't wait for another one. I hope that if we do, we get something like Brendan said, like Travis goes into Surratt's kid, or we tap into other lineage or something. I want something right after the Calamity, like the uprise of Exandria. You guys want to see more of what I do? Full unedited episodes, all the shows on the channel, seasons out of what you're seeing, hundreds of exclusives you only see on Patreon. The link is in front of me. Dozens of shows you'll never see on YouTube. I just don't have time to edit it all. Doctor Who, Person of Interest, Stargate, Battlestar, Fringe. I don't know. There's so many. Infinity Train and Eureka just started. Check the link in front. If not, comments down below. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.